I'm Bill Jackson, this is Road Chapel.
I'm Val from Road Chapel.
Well, I'm Ros from Road, and we use digital occasionally in services when we have a local arrangement.
I've been worshipping here for 31 years, I think, might be 32, long time. I love it. Obviously, it's the village where I live. I've lived here for 42 years, 43 years in April. So this is where I worship. This is my place, if you like. We've been using digital services ever since they started, really.
We had quite a few LAs at one point, and it started at the end of COVID. I think we started watching them.
I think the first time we encountered it in the chapel was when Mike Evans had come to do a service that he recorded in Road Chapel and then used parts of it as part of the service he did for us that Sunday, which was lovely and added a whole new dimension because of the IT that was used in it.
From a practical viewpoint, the Sunset Mended Circuit is huge and the preachers are spread wide and thin. We've noticed in recent years that there's more and more call for local arrangements, hence my own involvement in occasional worship leadership. And then suddenly along comes the digital service. Now, particularly useful for us because my wife Ros plays the piano or the organ or the recorder, but she basically provides the music. So if for whatever reason we're not here, then there isn't anybody to play the organ. So along comes a digital service where the music is there.
They are very useful to us. We are a small membership, and so when we have local arrangements, those fall on a small number of people. So it's really good to be able to watch a digital service together. It's good for us to see the other chapels and churches around the circuit, as well as the people who are actually delivering the service.
We were watching them at home, and we thought what a good idea it was. So when we had a local arrangement, sometimes it's easier to have somebody else during the service and bring the laptop down, plug it in, and off you go. Everybody can watch it.
Well, to begin with, I have friends who, in other circuits, who, through age infirmity and illness, were not able to get to their own churches and were missing out. So suddenly I had the opportunity to send by email a digital service for them to watch. And then my colleague Val, who's one of the other leaders here, just suggested that we could use a digital service instead of making up our own local arrangement. And that struck me as a stroke of genius, really, because it provides the music, it provides the readings, it provides the preaching. So the first time we projected it onto the screen. We have a screen, we have a projector, we used a Wi-Fi hotspot to be technical, and we did that. We projected it, we had it big on the wall, all the words were there, it was great. And there were 12, 13, 14, 15 of us on that particular day. So most recently, we've put the laptop on the table and we watched it live with 5, 6, 7 of us sitting in a semicircle in front of the projector, in front of them, just looking at the laptop. It's a 17-inch screen, so it's, not too bad, but perfect because it's intimate. We know each other. We are a fellowship. We know each other. We are friends. And so it works really well. We have coffee after chapel every Sunday. Often, the coffee and biscuits last longer than the worship does beforehand because we are a fellowship. And the fellowship is a very, very important part of what we do. Many of our visiting preachers have commented on how nice it is to sit and actually have a chat with us all after the service.
We're a small membership. It's quite easy to watch. It's good to be together. Quite a few of our congregation are elderly. They would not be able to access that service at home. They either don't have the internet or wouldn't know how to use it to access it. So by watching it in the chapel, we're still giving them that opportunity. And it also gives them the fellowship and the meeting with people that they would normally have.
So we come to chapel, we worship, and then we come into the kitchen, we sit and have fellowship. And the digital service just facilitates that. But we come to chapel deliberately because
community is everything. That's, for some people, it's the highlight of the week is coming to chapel, and then we have coffee afterwards, and it's a community thing. We love it, and we get the chance to have fellowship with each other through watching the service and discussing the service afterwards, and having coffee and biscuits.
That part of it is just as important. It gives people that companionship and fellowship.
I think it's only fair to say that to begin with, 1 or 2 or 3 people had reservations. But I think it's also fair to say that after they'd tried it once, the reservations disappeared. Because actually, the person on the screen is usually a face we recognise. It's usually someone we have met. It's usually somebody who's physically been here. Consequently, it's like listening to friends. It really isn't any different from having the person physically there, except that you can take your own time with their company. If you want, you could go back and hear the hymn again. If you want, you could go back and listen to the whole service again, or just listen to parts of it again. You know, how often have you listened to somebody preach a sermon and said to yourself afterwards, gosh, I wish I'd had that written down so I could read it again. Digital service, just go back to the beginning and hear it again. There's nothing to stop you doing that if you want to. Somerset Menard Circuit was formed in 2009, so we've been going 15 years. The genuine feeling now is that we belong to a large family, and it's wonderful to discover how well we get on with people from all over the place. The digital worship facilitates that. That's another huge advantage of the circuit that currently exists. There is the expertise. All you have to do is ask.
And it's enabled, it's been used as well to send out to other people who can't get to church. I know that Bill will send them around to people he knows who would like to watch it, so it reaches a far wider audience.
Well, the project was to record digitally a history of Methodism and the Methodist Church in Cheddar, and I was part of the team that has produced the film or the video. I have a lifelong passion for history, but I am still a firm believer that by looking at our past, looking at the history, whether it's of a person or an organisation or a church, we actually learn so much about why we are where we are and how we are, and particularly in the context of Cheddar, how they responded to great change in the village. Well, part of the attraction was that we still have the 3 different churches on the same site. I don't know if that is particularly unique, but in the recording, we actually recorded our conversations in each of the 3 sites of the churches. We have a resident local historian who is a member of our church. Hugh has so much knowledge that needs to be recorded. It's a bit like family history, really. We mustn't lose these original stories. And Hugh's family has been associated with the church for generations, and it's important that we do not lose this information, and also that we record some written resources or pictures that he also has with an explanation for why they are important. Okay, so it began with a meeting between myself and Hugh and David, who's our mission enabler, and to see what was possible and how it could be organised to film such a history. We decided that because of the church premises we have, it lent itself to 3 distinctive episodes which we recorded over the course of a year, and it also meant that we could film each episode in the location of the church that we were talking about. But I felt it was important to record it digitally because it is much more flexible and much more accessible to people of the 21st century. I think we're going to begin with a premiere of the video in a couple of weeks' time. But what we're hoping is that it is then going to be available to a much larger amount of people who will be able to look at it on YouTube, who may well get a copy of the film. I think there will be a lot of interest with local historical societies, and I do believe there may be some interest from schools and from young people who will find it much more acceptable to listen to the history of not just the church, but the social history of the village in this way.
My name's Jacquelene Seel. I'm a community development worker for Churchill Methodist. I've been there quite a while, but we got involved with the digital because we realised that context was changing. There was houses going up around us, and people's lives were changing too. So our old poster campaigns weren't that effective anymore. Obviously we've used posters for many years, and also the local parish magazine. But that only reaches a certain number of people, and we know there are a lot more people that we'd like to invite to Churchill to hear our gospel and join in our activities. So we'd like to serve our community better. Well, I'm an absolute newbie with Facebook. I hadn't been on Facebook, and I think only 2 people on our church council were Facebookers. So we have started from absolute zero. We're very grateful really for the support of our digital coordinator Circuit, and he has been and helped us, given us some very basic training, and we've used the connectional toolkit. That was useful. So it's been quite a journey. We had to practice on our own first, without putting the church's name out there, and then set up the church's Facebook page and just try things in a low-key way, just to get used to the processes, if you like. We've seen quite a big influx of people trying things such as our toddler group, and also even more general presence, such as at New Year we put out a blessing for our community, if you like, fleshing out who we are as a community, what we do, what we believe, how we are trying to serve and express Jesus' love round about us in a meaningful way. So that has been a lovely surprise. They've definitely seen us on Facebook, and they're people who have no other connection with our church or our congregation. So that is where we know we've got into new territory. Last week actually we were doing our regular family activities, Create Sunday, and a family came who we'd never met before. The grandparents had brought their daughter and grandchild. The grandparents lived about 3 or 4 doors down from church, and when I asked, how did you know about us? Was it the poster at the front of the church? They said no, it was Facebook. So that, I think, is quite a powerful story. Even though they were so close to us, they had never realised that Create Sunday was on or when to come until they saw us on Facebook. So I think that was worthwhile.